Hello everybody, my name is Karryshh and welcome back to another recap video. This time it's a Japanese horror Cursed Century X. This movie isn't as creepy as I expect a Japanese horror to be. We're gonna see a place that is cursed, but it's not exactly a bad curse. It's basically a one-time watch and you might love my recap more than this movie. Anyway, go follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my channel if you're new here because it is free for you and it is something that helps me out a lot. I really need your support to go further. And now sit back and relax as I recap Cursed Sanctuary X. So the story starts with this American-style diner. Inside, there's this old man just sitting there eating something. Then out of nowhere, he dies. There was also a dead woman lying in front of him already, which kind of hints that there's something evil going on at this place. Then the scene shifts to Korea to a writer's home. His name's Yamada and his book is still unfinished. He's got a housekeeper named Yumiko, and that day out of the blue, Yamada's sister, Azuma, shows up unannounced. He's completely caught off guard and pretty soon Yamada finds out that Azuma's husband has been cheating on her and now things have escalated to divorce where the husband is asking her for 5 million. She's completely broke now and from here on, she will be living with Yamada. Now for about a month everything seems fine, but then one day Azuma is out shopping at the market when she sees her husband Shigeru. She was furious and she starts chasing after him. Shigeru runs straight into that same diner we saw at the beginning of the movie and disappears into the restroom. Azuma follows him in and starts yelling at him, asking how he even had the guts to come to Korea, saying he should have stayed in Japan and all that. But then, instead of Shigeru, a man named Iguchi steps out of the restroom and tells her that her husband isn't there. Azuma was confused because she had mistaken Iguchi for Shigeru, but just then, Shigeru actually walks out of the restroom for real this time and both Azuma and Iguchi are in shock. Azuma storms out in anger, but Iguchi is left puzzled, wondering how the hell Shigeru came out of the restroom that was totally empty just a second ago. Then right after, 3 people come to meet Iguchi. They are Kiyoshi, his wife Kyoko, and a spiritual healer named Mrs. Jin. Turns out Shigeru is the manager of this house and Kyoko and Kiyoshi are the new buyers of this place. However, ever since Kyoko stepped into this house, she became really weird. It was actually her dream to open a cafe here, but now she doesn't seem to do anything and her behavior has convinced Kiyoshi that this place is cursed. That's why he has brought Mrs. Jin for help. And Iguchi was helping as well. Meanwhile, back at home, Azuma is devastated by everything and she locks herself in a room. Yamada tries to comfort her, but we see that deep down he's kind of self-centered. He always thinks he's better than everyone else. Anyway, Yumiko, the housekeeper, goes to talk to Azuma and calm her down, while Yamada steps out of the house and suddenly he runs into Shigeru. The moment Yamada sees Shigeru, he grabs a knife and tells him to run because his sister would never forgive him. Shigeru starts apologizing and admits that he made a huge mistake and he shouldn't have had an affair. But just then Azuma shows up and spots him. Shigeru runs after her trying to explain, but she dodges him and takes off running here and there. Yamada tries to stop Shigeru and in this chaos both of them fall into the pool. Now once things settle down, a new twist comes up. Shigeru says he has no memory of how he even got to Korea from Japan. He didn't have a passport, no money, nothing else. He was completely confused and after hearing this, Yamada decides to stash him away in the storage room, which Azuma clearly isn't happy about, but it's possible someone kidnapped him from Japan and brought him here and now they have to solve this mystery. Later, Azuma and Yamada try calling Shigeru's phone and to their shock, Shigeru actually answers, but he claims that he's in Japan. Both siblings are stunned, but Shigeru quickly hangs up because he doesn't want to talk to any of Azuma's family. Now even Yamada starts suspecting that maybe it wasn't actually Shigeru on the phone, since the real Shigeru was right there in the storage room. Then the next day, Yamada calls again and the scene cuts to Japan, and there's Shigeru. He was actually in Japan sitting with his secretary Hoshino. Yamada then tells him to prove it, asking him to take a photo in a very specific pose. Shigeru relents and sends the photo, and that's when Yamada and Azuma realize the truth. The guy in the storage room is not Shigeru. He's an imposter. And right then, Shigeru number 2 wakes up and shows up in front of him, and now they're terrified. They have no clue what's going on and what they're supposed to do next. Meanwhile, back at the cursed property, Iguchi finally uncovers some history. The place was built 30 years ago and used to be owned by a retired American soldier and his wife. They opened an American-style diner there, and business was good for the first couple of years. But then the wife developed Alzheimer's disease and the restaurant shut down. One day, the cops found both of their bodies inside the restaurant, and turns out they'd starved to death. But there's a strange thing. How could someone starve to death when their entire house is fully stacked with food? And after that, several people tried reopening a restaurant at that location, but every single one of them vanished mysteriously. Iguchi doesn't know what kind of curse is on this place, but he tells Kyoko that maybe she shouldn't try to open her restaurant there. Then Yamada and Azuma arrive at the house to get to the bottom of Shigeru's mystery. The brother and sister tell everyone how Shigeru's duplicate had walked out of this very house, so something's definitely off about this place. Hearing that, Iguchi says that the man isn't actually Shigeru. He's a split spirit, like an incomplete or fractured soul. And something similar happened with Kiyoshi's wife, Kyoko. Now Kiyoshi starts telling their story. Turns out the couple had moved from Japan to Korea for a fresh start. After their business back home went bankrupt, they bought this house and began rebuilding their lives. But soon, Kyoko started acting strange. One day she made regular pudding and claimed it was a new recipe. She started ordering wrong stuff for their restaurant. And Kiyoshi and Kyoko began fighting more and more, and whenever Kiyoshi pointed out her mistake, Kyoko insisted she hadn't done anything wrong. Then one day, Kiyoshi found another pair of glasses, exactly like his own pair. It was as if things around the house began multiplying. One object would turn into two all on its own. Then, one night, Kyoko started apologizing to him, and that's when Kiyoshi realized he wasn't talking to his wife. She would never apologize to him. When everyone heard the story, they were in shock, and then Kiyoshi reveals that last night he got a phone call. On the line, it was his wife's voice, but his real wife was sitting right in front of him. The one on the phone said she was coming to see him tonight, which freaked everyone out because according to folklore, if two beings created by a curse ever come face to face, they both die. Right then, Azuma sees a girl standing in the garden. Everyone runs out to check, and it turns out it's Kyoko's demonic version. She came to meet her. Kiyoshi then quickly goes and grabs his real wife and hides her in his arms. Meanwhile, outside, a storm hits and the evil Kyoko forces her way into the house. She starts speaking, saying that she doesn't know who she is, but all she knows that she's supposed to meet someone inside this house. Now the original Kyoko suddenly comes in front of her other self on purpose. They both reach out and hold hands, and immediately their hands begin to fuse together. She tries to pull away, but the evil version shoves her hand straight into Kyoko's chest and start pulling her out of the house. Everyone runs to help, but right before their eyes, the two Kyokos merge into one in a horrific way. After that, Kyoko starts mumbling nonsense in front of everyone. Then she throws up and she faints. After this, Kyoko was rushed to the hospital and now no one knows what the hell is going on anymore. The next day, everyone bring in a Korean shaman to get rid of the curse. He performs a ritual, but it fails pretty quickly. The shaman realizes he cannot break the curse and tells everyone that the energy in the house is deeply tied to the land itself. There's nothing in this world powerful enough to remove it. He suggests they all just leave the place, but according to him, the energy isn't trying to hurt anyone. If people treat it like a god, it will act like a god, but if they see it as an evil spirit, it will turn into an evil spirit and become dangerous. After that warning, the shaman and his team leave, and once they're gone, Mrs. Jin gives Yamada, Azuma and Kyoshi bottles of warm soda. However, while she hands it to him, she jokes that the soda is super cold, and the next second, the soda actually turns cold despite the fridge being off. Everyone was confused. It was as if her words made the soda change temperature. So could it really be that the curse is not evil but an angelic curse? Then later, Kyoko comes home and she seems okay now. She was just tired and she couldn't remember stuff from the past. Then Azuma gets a call from Shigeru in Japan saying he's flying to Korea the next day to sort out their divorce. And hearing that, Azuma and Yamada rush to lock up the second Shigeru, the doppelganger, in the storage room so the two don't come face to face by accident. The next day, Hoshino arrives to pick up Azuma since Shigeru is staying at a cafe nearby. But first, Yamada and Azuma take her to see the second Shigeru, who had somehow gotten out of the storage room again. Yamada quickly locks him back in and explains everything to Hoshino. In the end, Hoshino agrees to stay at the house to keep an eye on the doppelganger while the siblings go meet the real Shigeru, hoping to find a way to break this curse. Now as Yamada and Azuma were on their way to the cafe, they run into Shigeru. He had gotten tired of waiting and was heading toward their home. Now here, when original Shigeru sees Azuma after all this time, old feelings come rushing back. He apologizes for everything and admits that lately he's been forgetting bits and pieces about the past. Basically, ever since the doppelganger appeared, the real Shigeru was also forgetting things from the past. The original Shigeru didn't even remember that he cheated on her, and Azuma doesn't forgive him. She runs away. Shigeru tries to follow, but Yamada stops him before he can get inside the house, since his doppelganger is still there. Yamada then calls in Hoshino, and Hoshino takes Shigeru away with her, and the next day, Yamada decides to run an experiment at that cursed property. In this experiment, everyone was sitting around when Yamada handed Iguchi a book wrapped in cloth and said that he wrote this, but it turned out the book was actually written by someone else. Then, Hoshino came into the house, and Yamada gave the same wrap book to her instead and asked everyone else to step outside. He told Hoshino the book was his, explained the title, genre and all that, and then he also left the house. Now Yamada explains his experiment to everyone. Remember how yesterday Mrs. Jin handed over warm soda bottles while joking that it was cold, and then the soda actually turned cold. That moment made Yamada realize that there's some kind of force in the house that can manifest things into reality. If someone genuinely believes in something, it will come to life. Since Iguchi didn't know Yamada was an author, he didn't believe him, so the book appeared in its original form. But when Hoshino saw it, someone who believed Yamada was a writer, the book had changed. It now had Yamada's name on the cover, but the inside was filled with gibberish. This means Yamada's theory worked. The house can turn imagination into reality. So finally the mystery of this cursed house is solved. Back in the past, that American couple died because they had no money for food. They literally starved to death. But before they died, all they could think about was food. That thought must have been so powerful that the house's energy actually manifested real food everywhere around the house. Then, in the present, when Kyoshi and Kyoko moved in, Kyoko really wanted to create a new kind of dish that tasted like pudding. So, when she made her dish, it magically ended up tasting exactly like pudding. That's why also weird things started showing up in the house. They were the manifestation of Kyoshi and Kyoko. Then one day, she and Kyoshi had a fight, and Kyoshi really wanted his wife to apologize. So one night, a doppelganger of Kyoko appeared, one that was ready to apologize to him. The same thing happened with Azuma. She followed Iguchi into the house thinking he was her husband, and since she truly believed that deep down the house created a doppelganger version of her husband. So yeah, that's the truth behind all this. There's no evil curse, it's just some unknown force in the house that brings people's deepest desires to life. Seriously, if someone wished for $1 million in their bank account while staying in that house, it could actually come true. So now here's the deal. When two doppelgangers are created, both of them start becoming incomplete in some way. So now, just like Kyoko and her double version had to eventually merge, now the same thing has to happen with the real Shigeru and his doppelganger to set things right. Yamada and Azuma go to explain this to Shigeru number 2, but since he was born from Azuma's desires, all he wants is to apologize to her from his past mistakes. He refuses to merge with the original Shigeru, saying the real one is a terrible person and he wants nothing to do with him. However, Yamada doesn't listen to any of it and even tries to get Shigeru number 2 to sign the divorce papers, but instead, Shigeru number 2 panics and runs away. Yamada and Azuma chases after him and Yamada finally catches him near the beach, but then he notices something disturbing. There was a hole in Shigeru number 2's chest. Now before Yamada can process it, Shigeru number 2 pushes him away and Azuma scolds her brother too, cause she never wanted Shigeru number 2 to disappear. However, Yamada tries to explain that this guy isn't real and Azuma already knows what could happen when two Shigerus come face to face. Then that night, Azuma couldn't sleep. She was stuck remembering the good days of her marriage, and meanwhile, Yamada is racking his brain trying to figure out a solution, how to safely merge both versions of Shigeru, and then it clicks him. The next day, Yamada shares his theory with the group. He says that the doppelgangers that come out of this house are literally born from the original people. Actually, if you remember, when Shigeru number 2 appeared in our world, the real Shigeru started experiencing memory shifts. Same thing happened with Kyoko. So basically, the doppelganger is a split version from the real person. Think of it like this. One full glass of water represents one person. Now that glass gets poured into two different glasses. Now you have two people. But here's the problem. Shigeru number 2 has now existed in this world for over a week. He's framed some new memories of his own. If the two Shigerus merge now, those combined memories might overload the system and the real Shigeru could go insane. That's exactly what almost happened to Kyoko. She barely made it out alive and ended up in the hospital. So to avoid that, Yamada comes up with a plan. They will create a third Shigeru made entirely from those unnecessary leftover memories that have built up over the past week. Then they will merge the real Shigeru and Shigeru number 2 and eliminate the Shigeru number 3. Cause he will be just a memory who's made up of junk data at this point. Now the big question was, how were they going to create Shigeru number 3? For this work, they called in the housekeeper, Yumiko. Actually, you see, for the past week, Yumiko had been taking care of Shigeru number 2, not knowing he was a doppelganger, which means all the random memories that Shigeru number 2 had acquired over this time were all somehow related to Yumiko. And basically, Yumiko was the only person who could unknowingly give birth to Shigeru number 3. Now, Yumiko shows up at the cursed house and everyone tells her that Shigeru had locked himself in a room and he wasn't coming out. Yumiko was asked to help and then Yumiko starts calling him out, asking him to step outside politely, and then suddenly, bam, everyone was in shock cause upon Yumiko's command, Shigeru number 3 steps out of the room. Now here they doesn't waste any time. They grab him, tie him to a chair, cause he was nothing but a physical form made of useless leftover memories. Yumiko freaks out cause of course she has no idea what was going on, but Yamada tells her just to go back home. Now Yumiko leaves, but everyone tries to calm down Shigeru number 3 when suddenly Shigeru number 2 burst into the house. Now the moment Shigeru number 2 sees number 3, he instinctively starts trying to fuse with him, but the others stop him and lock him in a room. A little while later, Hoshino arrives with a real Shigeru, and without wasting time, they send him straight into the room with Shigeru number 2. Now in there, Shigeru number 2 freaks out when he sees the original version cause he doesn't wanna disappear. But as soon as Shigeru touches him, number 2 tries to run for his life. Shigeru chases him. They both struggle, but in the end, number 2 cannot escape and their bodies start fusing. Eventually, Shigeru and Shigeru number 2 merge into one. Right after that, Shigeru throws up, but he was totally fine. He doesn't even need to go to the hospital cause none of those useless memories got transferred to him. After everything, Shigeru's feeling pretty great. He tells Azuma that after all this, he had realized that what he had done was wrong all along. He truly loves her, but Azuma shuts him down cold. She reminded him that he had an extramarital affair and she will never forgive him for that. She asked Hoshino to send Shigeru back to Japan cause she doesn't even wanna see his face. After this, Hoshino leaves with Shigeru and everyone goes back to the one thing left to do, which was to deal with Shigeru number 3, who now had to be killed. The brother and sister say they will handle it alone, so Kyoshi, Kyoko and Iguchi say their goodbyes and leave the house. Then Yamada grabs a rope and goes straight for Shigeru number 3, trying to strangle him. But since number 3 was still somewhat human, he starts fighting back and tries to escape. However, he doesn't get far though. He had a sack tied over his face, so he stumbles and falls. Yamada goes after him again and they get into a struggle. And during this fight, they go in the kitchen where the sack comes off from number 3's face. Immediately after this, he starts begging for his life, saying that he's human too, and he starts pleading to not be killed. But Yamada ignores all his pleading and grabs a knife. Things get even more intense and they fight again, and eventually Yamada pins number 3 down. However, in the end, he just cannot go through with it. He couldn't stab him. He was not a killer. And that's when Azuma suddenly screams. She notices that Shigeru number 3 has no reflection in the mirror. The siblings realize they won't be able to kill him that way, and then Azuma comes to a conclusion. She says, "Do you remember what you ate for dinner 3 or 4 nights ago? You probably don't, right?" So according to her, Shigeru number 3 will eventually disappear on his own cause he's just a memory. And since that memory belonged to housekeeper Yumiko, once she forgets about him, he will vanish. Until then, they'll just keep him with them. Now the scene jumps a few days ahead and everyone has gathered for a barbecue. We find out that Kyoshi and Kyoko have opened a new cafe and that cursed house was permanently sealed off. Now for the barbecue, Azuma goes to call Shigeru number 3, but he's finally gone. He has disappeared. Life goes on after that and everything returns to normal, and Yamada ends up writing a book about this haunted experience. He calls it Sanctuary X, and that's when the movie ends. So this was the recap video on the movie Karryshh Sanctuary X, and I hope you have liked this video. If you have, then please subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. I really need your support to grow further. If you want to watch this movie, there's a link to my Telegram channel in the description box. If that link does not work, just go to Telegram and put my channel's name in the search bar. How and when you can find it on Telegram will be revealed on the channel, so go join that. Also, follow me on Instagram and you can talk to me there. For now, I see you all in the next one. Till then, stay awake, because they always see you.